This is a Wild Games Production podcast.
Show, but we're going to call it Bound for Glory. Matt's laughing because he knows why, but Bound for Glory, where we're going to take and highlight something from the Marvel Universe, maybe what do they call them? The joint universe? What are the subsidiaries?
The multiverse.
But also the other comic labels, like
the imprints?
The other imprints that were involved with Marvel over the years that they bought or purchased, but so this episode is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to hearing. We're going to take a former person from days past that really hasn't got much attention, hasn't got a write-up, no one's really thought about him. He may have not been around for a while. Maybe he did get some reprints recently, but we're going to do that every once in a while, tell you the history of the character and how you can use him, and then we're going to give our write-ups of the character based on what we read and what we think.
Mm-hmm.
So, first things first, let's get some stuff, business out of the way. Nick, stars.
Business out of the way. Being stars, you betcha.
Yep.
So, we got a few starred reviews, 3 of them. Just to let you know, go to iTunes, look up the podcast there for Classic Marvel, and you can give us some reviews, and we shall hopefully read them on the air if you want to. On the air? I guess we say it on the air, right?
On the air!
Yes. But we have 3 reviews. Our first one is from Nick56 with 3 backslashes.
Nick, is that you?
Yeah. Yeah. He said, great job, team, with 5 stars.
Wow.
Does love this group of old school podcasters enjoying the Marvel discussion. Does Jeff Grubb know what you're up to? I don't know. Maybe he does. Mm-hmm. Maybe have him on the board for an interview. And best of all, no Crispy. Lol. So nobody will vomit. I don't know. We'll have to get a hold of Jeff.
Jeff is really hard to get a hold of for a show.
Yeah. We've had him on a couple of times in the old show.
I think it was once.
Was it once?
Yeah.
It was like once in the very early days.
Oh, I'm thinking of Tracy Hickman. He was on for a couple times.
Yeah, Tracy Hickman was on a couple times, but Jeff Grubb, he had him on once to talk Manual of the Planes, I think it was. And
yes, it was.
It was very difficult to arrange that because he's so busy doing other things and writing. Yes. And at the time he was working on, I think, Elder Scrolls, and he's all over the place. The guy's a busy man, so.
Yeah. So, we'll put the word out to him, and if he wants to come on the show, yeah, cool. I think we'll have him on. Why not?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, he did, create the damn game. So, but thank you so much, Nick56 with the 3 slashes. Anyway, moving on, we got another one here from Dr. G-Man of Nerdology. I want that degree.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. And he says, +3 column ship of the podcast. With 5 stars. And he said, great podcast for the FASERIP fan. Well, thank you. And we are fans. So, +3 column shift for us, guys. What do you think of that?
Sounds good.
And then we got our last one here from Lexi Brooke. And another 5 stars, guys.
Yeah.
And says, another hit show. All these guys over from RFI Podcast. Well, thank you. And I love that they decided to do a super show. I never heard of this game before, and I'm finding it fun and interesting. Keep it up. Well, there's a good one.
Yeah.
Didn't even know that it existed, and they're like, hey, this is kind of cool.
It's always good to find someone that's like, oh, wow, this is a new game to them. And they're like, it's been out for like 20-something years, and they're like, wow, I never knew it existed.
And they're grooving on it, man.
Yeah.
They're grooving on it. Got to get into that 70s mood here. Got my mood ring on.
Uh-oh. That's a good transition, actually, into starting about the history of who we're gonna talk about, Nick.
Yeah, I Vince found this really interesting and very unique, and if I say rather unknown character, not really known. Known as Skull the Slayer.
Yeah.
Skull the Slayer, and it was a very short series of books from like mid 75 to early 76,
Around
8
there.
issues.
Yeah.
That he did. But there's a very interesting character, and it's really actually capsulizes how things were going on in America at the time. But just a little bit about this guy. His name, besides his superhero name, Skull the Slayer, is James Patrick Scully. He's from Wahoo, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Go Huskers. He's a U.S. Air Force veteran, and he was in the Vietnam War. And in fact, part of what happened to him, he was a prisoner of war for a while.
Did you see the date on one of the comics? He was like over 800 something days. He was a prisoner of war.
Yeah, something like that.
Because he counted down the days, and I was just like, "Wow, that's a long time to be a POW."
Yeah. Ask John McCain. He was in the Hanoi Hilton for
5 years, wasn't it?
5 years, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, he was shot down in 69 or 1970, and he was there until 74, I want to guess. 73, 74, somewhere there. But, and it kind of played on that, because that happened right around that time where all those POWs were released from the Hanoi Hilton. So in a way, maybe Scully here was maybe a part of that. But he was a prisoner of war. He gets back from Vietnam. He was married, got divorced. His brother, who was a scumbag.
Yeah, right.
Basically the atypical draft dodger who got all in drugs, getting high, marries his sister. Marries the sister. Marries the ex-wife.
Right.
Which, adding insult to injury, So, yeah, the brother marries the ex-wife. They get into a confrontation. The brother, James and his brother, in this huge altercation, and his brother pulls a knife on Scully, and Scully, because he still has that training, tried to disarm and everything, and kills his brother.
His brother fell on the knife. He was trying to just disarm him. His brother falls and happens to impale himself
on the knife.
And then the brother that's strung out on drugs isn't the same brother that married his wife.
I thought it was.
No, I thought they're different people.
No, they're the same one.
Oh, they are?
They look the same to me, yeah.
They are the same people.
I was thinking they were different just because of how quickly he went from being sober, snuggling with wife, to strung out on drugs at his parents' house.
He cleaned up for the occasion.
Okay.
Didn't he also allude to the fact that something happened with the parents they were blaming on Scully for some reason?
Yeah,
they died of heartache.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Being in Vietnam and everything, and
they died of heartache. It was his fault. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of. We were discussing it earlier. There's a lot of overtones, because this is like right on the heels of the end of the Vietnam War. So the political climate in the country towards the war itself was very, very negative. So, and you can see that in this series.
Yeah.
So what happens is he goes on the run for a while. He becomes like a bodyguard eventually for somebody in Bermuda. And he gets captured in Bermuda. And this is where really the story literally takes off. He's on a plane, a C-130 from Bermuda, hence going through the Bermuda Triangle. Dun, dun.
Because that's how the fastest way to travel is to go through the triangle.
Yes. So they're going from Bermuda and they're trying to get back to the States. So I'm assuming they're probably flying to Florida and going through the Bermuda Triangle. And what happens?
what normally happens. Aliens.
Pretty much. They go through a time warp. Cue music from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Time warp again.
The time warp again. And basically, they go through this time warp, and they go to what's eventually known as Weird World. And yeah, stressing the weird.
Yeah.
It's got dinosaurs and cavemen and aliens. Oh my. And you'll just hang tight, folks. And so he gets to this place called Weird World. He's with his whole bunch of other people that were on the plane. There's Dr. Raymond Corey, who's a U.S. government physicist. And
why was he even on the plane?
I don't know.
That's what I couldn't figure out.
I never really got that, unless, here's how I could rationalize it. And because I've actually done this. You can catch military flights if you're with the government, if they have room, like on transports.
Okay.
And he's a government guy. That's what I'm assuming.
And Anne?
They have Anne Farrell Reynolds. She's, I guess you could she is the atypical women's lib woman of the 70s here. She's very, I am strong, hear me roar. And
these people make no sense why they're there, to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest.
Corey, at least Dr. Corey, he's the typical, rights movement, angry black guy in this. I don't mean to say, but that's just how he comes across in this, and that they did it on purpose, as you read on in the comics. Right. You see why. But
right, and yeah, again, this was in the middle of the 70s. We're still kind of on the heels of the civil rights movement, and it's still kind of making its way through regular culture. And then we have Jeff Turner, who I'll say he'll die.
He's like the wimpy, hippie.
He's the guy who you could see by reading this, this guy's got a target on his back.
The senator, you find out later, he's the senator's son of whatever. I don't know what state it was. Massachusetts? I couldn't figure out what state he was from.
I couldn't either.
Yeah, because they didn't really specify it other than he was a generic senator.
Yeah.
So what happens is they crash land here. I believe he eventually, Scully eventually meets up with the rest of the people, but he's out there in this jungle. He's literally fighting for his life. He's taking down what looked like a horse and something, and he's hunting, man of the wild sort of thing. And then he gets with the rest of the people on the plane, and from what I understand, I believe they get captured by cavemen.
Yeah,
it kind of comes out that way. They get captured by cavemen.
Yeah,
and they're with the cavemen, and I actually like how they played it up, because they didn't give the cavemen any language, because it's all grunts and what have you. But eventually the cavemen, they kind of, I guess, get their trust of the cavemen a little bit over time, and then the cavemen take them to this deeper cave. Inside this cave is, guess what?
A dead alien.
A dead alien.
Yeah. Sitting in a throne, it looked like, right?
Yeah, what?
It looked like he was sitting in a throne.
Yeah, it looked like it was sitting in a throne. But you could, when you're looking at this, it looks like the inside of a spaceship. Like this flying saucer crashed, and this alien, this dead body of the alien, still there. And I'm trying to figure out what really this alien has, this kind of belt sash sort of thing.
Yeah.
And Scully tries to get it, and he gets electrocuted, basically. He gets shocked. And then I guess to throw it in to make it educational, he figured out, hey, you know what? Wood does not conduct electricity, so I'll use this stick to grab the belt.
It worked.
And yeah, it worked. And you know what? The caveman got pissed.
Well, they got pissed because he kind of ruined the skeleton that was in place. It kind of crumbled and fell.
Right. Yeah. Because I kind of got from that, that the cavemen were worshiping that thing as a god.
They were. That was like their idol. They were worshiping.
That was their god.
And then this guy shows up, takes his pointy stick and destroys it.
Yeah, and he takes this belt sash thing, and their god falls apart. But this kind of goes into, like we were talking about, sort of the pop culture at the time. There was a real, during the mid-70s, if you lived that time, there was a big paranormal, occult movement going on in the United States, and part of that was like, UFOs. How many remember the show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy? All that, Chariots of the Gods, that book by Von Daniken. And this kind of, I think, is playing off that. Maybe. That's what I kind of got from it. So we have, the whole Vietnam War background. Then we have like Chariots of the Gods, ancient aliens, astronauts, that sort of thing. That's going on too.
There was a big paranormal thing in the 70s. You had the whole
Amityville horror.
Well, yeah.
You had the Warrens running around doing all those ghost investigations and demon hunts and everything. So yeah, you're right, definitely. Yeah,
that was like besides like the 20s and 30s where there was like a pretty good run of the paranormal. The 70s and the 60s, and then it really took off in the 70s. Whole paranormal UFO thing was just really caught up. I got caught up when I was a kid. That's how I got interested in the stuff.
Yeah.
So you have that going on. So you got all the post-Vietnam War stuff going on. You got ancient astronaut stuff going on. And then you go to you go into the next issue, and there's this thing called the Tower of Time. So there's more crazy alien stuff going on here. They encounter a dinosaur, but not just a dinosaur, a robot dinosaur. Well, and Scully beats the hell out of it.
Well, you have to remember that they found this tower out of nowhere, and it stretched up to the middle of the sky, and there was this ramp that they walked around that went on forever, and then they found a door, and they went in the door, and then they just kind of fell into this whole, I don't know, this tower that had each level was a different timeline.
A different period of human history, or actually of the planet.
Yeah.
And
that's when the robot dinosaur showed up.
Right, because it's like each level is like a
period.
It's populated with robots of those things in that time. So he fights this robot dinosaur, this is where he crushes the head of the dinosaur thing. So he's getting power, strength, to boost his strength to from the belt.
And he's taking risks beyond risks, and he's like all over the place, really overconfident, and it shows because the belt obviously is giving him all this ability.
Right.
Well, it struck me as that was just his personality to begin with, anyway.
Well,
he's a guy that takes risks, but
right. Even in Vietnam, it struck me as he was the soldier that did that, and that it's not so much that the belt did that; it just the belt gave him the ability to do more, but his mind would put him in situations his body wouldn't always be able to hold up to.
I maybe part of his, I guess if you want to call it psychological makeup, is being a prisoner of war. He lived through that. It's like, if I could live through that, I could do this. It's like, I've been through literally hell and back.
He also came up as
fighting robot dinosaurs is nothing.
Right.
Try to get poked by punji sticks and stuff like that. See how you do.
He was also came off as a big jerk at times too. So
yeah, he got kind of arrogant.
Right. You have to remember this is like a year after the Punisher was brought to the scene as well.
Oh,
big anti-hero movement going on.
Right. Here. So that was kind of the thing. Remember, like pop culture, Charles Bronson, Death Wish, Dirty Harry.
Which you mentioned. That's right. The new Death Wish movie is coming out.
Yes, very true.
Oh, it looks good. Anyway. Yes. So fights the robot dinosaur, crushes its skull. And I'm not quite sure how he got there, but they get through a couple of doors and they end up in the time period of ancient Egypt.
I was confused on that too. So
yeah, and they get captured by ancient Egyptians that are robots.
Did you guys feel like that there was something missing in between each issue? Like there should have been another comic once in a while, or
Yeah, maybe at least a recap.
no? Like from one issue to the next, and it kind of like didn't exactly follow on some of them where they were for the next point.
Yeah.
I was confused on the first couple of them.
Yeah, they were they were taking advantage of, well, all they have to do is open a door and they can be anywhere. So they kind of used that.
Okay.
The storyboarding and editing was between issues was questionable. You kind of reading through them, you're kind of like, okay, how all of a sudden did they get here?
I had to go back a couple times. I'm like, wait, Ancient Egypt, wait, and I went back and I was like, no, wait, they were over here.
Yeah, you're like, oh, where the hell did this happen? You know?
Right.
And then again, going on with the whole ancient aliens, ancient astronauts thing, the Egyptians who capture Scully and his companions, they're led by this alien by the name of Slithertongue. He is a serpent alien.
Well, at this point, we want to make note that he was before he gets captured, he was fighting against the Egyptian robots, and this is the point where Jeff decides that he's not going to fight and he's too wimpy and weak for some odd reason all of a sudden. Yeah. Before he was jumping on the back of a dinosaur, beating the crap out of the T-Rex, and now he can't even take an Egyptian?
Yeah.
Right.
A little inconsistency there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, no, that's right, because there's like, what happened in his why all of a sudden
he just went
now
like wimpy all of a sudden. I couldn't understand it.
Yeah. The writing was all over the place in some things. I mean, but yeah, it's like, well, then you introduce this character by the name of Slithertongue.
Weird alien. Weird.
What I was thinking of when I read about, who he is, he's a alien, got trapped here a long time ago, and he made these robots here to basically serve him.
So he's Harry Mudd from Star Trek?
Yeah, I guess so.
Except they're not women.
He's a reptile.
Yeah.
So this actually kind of goes with the whole, again, the ancient astronaut thing. Right. And, almost Lovecrafty in a way, because they had the serpent people, which were an ancient race.
Right.
And you have that going on.
Yeah, you also have to remember in this, the Bermuda Triangle, everything disappears in it because he's there, sucking things in because he wants to see what's on Earth. Basically make robot clones of it, so that way he can build up the strength to take over the world, and then also turn on his alien race because they abandoned him on Earth.
They abandoned him. Yeah, he bears a grudge against the his own people. So they escape. They get captured by the Slithertongue guy. They do eventually escape.
Well,
and they go back into the tower.
Don't forget the most important part happens during the Slithertongue.
That's right. His buddy Jeff gets killed. He gets zapped by Slithertongue.
And you also have to remember, Skull abandons everyone else in the party and says, "Screw you guys, I'm leaving."
Yeah, he just kind of goes on his own. Not only does Jeff die, which kind of came out of nowhere. I did not expect that to happen.
Yeah, the Slithertongue's like, let me show you my power, and like his eyes became one eye, and he shot a blast out and just killed him.
Shot a laser blast from his cyclopean eye.
Yeah. So he became a Dalek.
Yeah, for exterminate.
Pretty much.
And turns
and then they become
Jeff there into a pile of ash.
And then they become slaves building the pyramids for a little while, and then
for a
Skull's like,
they escape.
Skull figures out that the Egyptian robots can't walk in the sand. For some odd reason.
Design flaw.
And then he's like, I have a great plan to get out. And they're like, how? Just run. And they just run.
Just run. Yeah, that's the big plan. Running. They go through a door and they end up where?
Well, and you have to, hold on, before they... And then they run, and then Anne somehow breaks her leg or twists her ankle somehow.
Yeah, she becomes the Mary Sue damsel in distress.
And then he just turns around and looks and sees there's so many coming. And he's like, you know what? In the war, I would just go. So I'm going. Goodbye. And he just ran.
Yeah.
Leaving Corey and Anne behind to fend for themselves and pretty much die.
Yeah, so he's running off on his own for the most part.
He didn't care.
No, he didn't.
He's a loner. He's got
Literally.
that chip on his shoulder. The whole world's turned against him, and he's looking out for numero uno.
He's a bad guy.
well, he's not a bad guy. He's just, you know,
He does what he wants.
he does what he wants.
But he finds the
And-
door and goes back into the stupid tower.
Yeah, he goes back into the tower and he basically ends up, I guess would be medieval England because he sees the Black Knight and Merlin.
The return of the Black Knight in this issue.
Yeah.
Which made no
Which
sense.
we kind of deduced, meaning that the Black Knight character hadn't been used for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, okay, no, he's in medieval Europe?
But
Yeah.
it's not really the Black Knight, as we'll get to, but
Or Merlin.
or Morgan Le Fay, who's
Or Morgan Le Fay. But they do team up with Merlin. They were able to convince him that, you know, that they could team up to fight Slithertongue and Morgan Le Fay. And
Yeah, then Slithertongue brings his companions back from the dead to fight
Yeah.
on his side because he convinces them that, you know,
it was his fault.
I could see Anne having a grudge. I could see Dr. Corey having a grudge, but Jeff died just because of, you know, the alien zapped him. He had no grudge.
Right.
He was like in love with Scully the whole time, pretty much.
Yeah,
You didn't save me,
Slithertongue
Skull.
killed him.
Yeah, Skull didn't save him, so therefore I'm mad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, why is he mad?
So if it gets, if it
And-
wasn't
did
weird
you notice that
already.
did you notice that Jeff had long hair all of a sudden, and the rest of them had the
I
main-
didn't pick up on that. No.
Yeah, he all of a sudden his hair was long, like hippie long, and everyone else's hair was just the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently a side effect of being resurrected.
Yeah, I was like, what? Okay, but y'all go on.
No, it's and you know, at this point I'm like, okay, this is really getting weird because you know he resurrects his friends. The Slithertongue does that, and then they get into this big battle where they're riding in on like Pegasi and other flying creatures, and then we find out Merlin was a robot.
Right.
Big surprise.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and then there's some resolution, I guess.
It's more of like a
way.
stalemate because it was
Yeah.
implied that this battle had happened many a times. They go, they fight, they all hit a point, then just reset, go to sleep, wake up, fight, reset, go to sleep. It was kind of implied this was like a never-ending cycle they were stuck in.
This never-ending battle, which I guess there might have been some allegory towards warfare, I suppose. But eventually, you know, the Black Knight's talking with Scully, and then he's like, you know, he takes off his helmet. Black Knight takes off his helmet, and lo and behold, the Black Knight's a robot. I also, you know what? It just hit me.
What?
What movie came out around this time?
Oh, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, right?
Well, yes.
Sorry. What movie were you thinking?
Westworld.
Oh, okay.
All the robots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm wondering. I think it came out about the same time. I want to, you know, I want to check that, but I'm pretty sure Westworld came out at.
Well, yeah, well, go ahead and check that, but
73.
okay, yeah.
There you go. So there's another pop culture thing that they threw in here. Was apparently there was some stuff from the movie, and then there was a series called Westworld. So that's. It just hit me. I'm like, oh, what's with all the robots? I'm like, oh, okay. But he even has more adventures, and just briefly, so it won't get too crazy long, because the storyline is crazy.
Well, then after the robot thing, they all like just
They
suddenly
make up.
Yeah, they suddenly just forgive him, and they're just
Yeah,
like, yeah, let's go team up again. We love you again.
Yeah, it's all good.
Well, except for Dr. Corey, who continues to still hate.
He's still being an angry
Right.
guy.
The entire 8 issues, except for I think the last one, he was just angry guy at him. Angry. Just anything he could yell at him, he could. He actually got on my nerve at some point. I was just like, dude, he didn't do anything. Chill.
Yeah.
Call him, what do you
But,
call him? The Great White Hunter, right? At one point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's putting little jabs into him like that. But
It's all your fault, Skull. We could have got out of here, but no, you.
Yeah, no. I kept on thinking of Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, he would be perfect for that role. Him yelling.
Yeah,
at
he'd
them.
be perfect. Remember, every other word is,
So, like
Can't
you
say
said,
on
with
this
the
podcast.
more adventures, as then they start going on, and all of a sudden starts showing more of her feminine fight back type thing going on.
Right. She puts on the Star Trek uniform.
Yeah.
And then
Yes, that's right. I forgot
fighting.
about that. Yeah, they had to find new clothes, and they got new clothing from
like the aliens, wasn't it?
They
somebody.
I'm trying to remember where they found them. Was it when they were fighting? It was before they started fighting the Aztecs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now they're encountering Aztecs or Incans or Mayans, but some sort of South American kind of culture. The South or Central American culture. He fights a sea monster and pterodactyls, pteranodons, a stegosaurus.
Well, the sea monster is an important piece because that's where he gets his other nickname, Son of the Sun. Because remember he was fighting the sea monster and he started glowing and he beat the crap out of the sea monster and the Incans started calling him the Son of the Sun. That weird.
Oh yeah,
because they started worshiping him as a god as well.
That's right. I forgot about that.
They brought them back to their temple and it was just crazy from there.
Him.
And apparently the Incans could speak perfect.
God.
Apparently the Aztec Incans can speak perfect English too. So
yeah, the universal translator.
Yeah.
Because, well, like
I was expecting them to be robots too, but apparently that never materialized.
I'm sure
they probably were.
Yeah,
they probably were.
But he does get back to the present through the Marvel through the the Thing from Fantastic Four, and it was a few issues of Marvel Team Up.
Well, let's go back. Hold on, you got to go back a few.
No, rewind because there's a few points missing. One, we find out why the Viet Cong held him. For so long.
Put that in. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because you see, the other person who hunted him down, that was trying to hunt him down, was one of his the soldiers underneath him.
Yeah.
And that soldier made up a whole bunch of stuff saying, hey, Skull, he knows everything.
Yeah.
So they tortured him when he knew nothing. And he spent all that time because another soldier looked out for himself. Because him and this guy had a riff with each other.
The Corporal Lance, I think his name was. I can't think of what his name was.
Yeah, Corporal Lance was like, oh, Skull, he knows everything. So the Viet Cong let him go in one of the early prisoner exchanges. And then they kept torturing him to find out information that he didn't have.
And we also have to backtrack a little bit, too, because we find out the Black Knight finds out the reason how the tower is there and Slithertongue, and he wants him killing Slithertongue, who then pulls the switch that powers the entire tower and makes it just blow up.
I think there was just so much craziness going on. I just missed some things.
You remember the Black Knight threw his sword at Slithertongue, and Slithertongue grabbed the switch at the last second, which powered the entire thing?
Yep. And you also have to remember, this would be also around the same time Marvel was writing like Doctor Strange and things like that. And we know from them writing Doctor Strange, what the writers would do is pop a bunch of acid and start writing.
Yes.
So therefore, you might see a little bit of the aftermath of that in some of this too.
No.
In some of the, yeah. So again, it's a microcosm of the time it was written. And when you look back on this, you can really get a feel of where society was through this comic.
Oh, that's right. Because the head of those Aztecs, he was
another soldier.
He was in the Navy.
Yeah, he was I think a Navy pilot.
Yeah.
From like World War II.
War II. Yes.
Yeah. And then he became their god. And then what he did is he put them through trials to see if they were worthy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he had that weird like half face mask on the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, where his face kind of burned up in the plane crash.
It's very weird. Then they spent way
the
too
whole
much.
series is really weird.
They spent way too many pages in one of the issues on the senator arguing with the corporal. I was just like, I don't care.
Well, I think the thing was this ended with like a cliffhanger where at the very last splash page was saying, if you want more of Skull, write in. So I think they were setting up the next story arc.
Which they did do eventually.
So I think that's what they were setting up, that next story arc. So that's why they.
You know what? Another thing that kind of hit me, where the guy, yes, he was a naval aviator. He disappeared in 45.
Yeah,
and he was part of a flight doing a reconnaissance over Atlantic. That kind of plays into the whole, what was it, Flight 19? There was a whole bunch of dive bombers, Navy dive bombers that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle in 1945. They never found the planes.
Huh.
It was like a whole squad. I wonder if they were kind of playing on that whole thing as well. It just seems kind of seemed to kind of parallel that. So,
well, did he die at the end of this series? I couldn't really tell.
No. He was just in a precarious situation. He wasn't. It was very ambiguous because they were giving you a teaser to write in so they could make more stories.
Which they eventually did in '78 with the Marvel 2-in-1, apparently. So
right,
well,
because
yeah,
well, kinda it was more of they all end up back in time with the dinosaurs.
Well, I think what really sums up this whole series of how nuts it is page 15 of the last issue.
Okay.
Where you have a samurai, it looks like a medieval knight, and maybe a Greco-Roman type soldier flying pterodactyls and attacking them.
Yeah.
That pretty much sums up what the heck's going on in this thing. This series was like, they packed so much into one series that's why I missed a few things. I'm like, oh, what? Huh?
Yeah, a lot was going on. It was like a bad Doctor Who episode where they start twisting too much between all the different time arcs, and then you have the subplot with all the robots and the aliens. Then you have the plot going back on in the present time, and you're like, what's real, what's not?
I'm like, oh my god, this is Rifts before there was Rifts game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like, holy cow. I'm looking at that picture. I'm like, there's the samurai riding a pterodactyl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
wow.
it's like
this is totally gonzo.
Yeah, if you left the doors open in that tower and just let things pass through, it's just chaos.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not the same history though as the Marvel. It's a parallel. So don't.
And I guess they established that way later on that where they went to was a place called Weird World.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
well, they even make reference in the story that there was something where the big bad was talking about how things weren't changing in their world when they altered the past in his world that he created. So they kind of hinted that it wasn't the same there. But yeah, it just a lot going on.
Yeah, it's like, and then at the end of the issue, you see Scully, the Skull the Slayer, laying on the ground, incapacitated, and all of his friends are like, Skull, get up.
Yeah. I kept hearing like the whole, stay tuned next time and Batman will. I was like, that whole thing. From the Batman
that's
series.
Exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was.
I was hoping, like, I'm reading this, I'm like, the one, what the heck's this guy? He's like a wizard. What's his name? Cochrane.
Oh, yeah.
He says, take them to the dungeons, children, and bind them well, for soon the false son of the sun will find himself bound to an altar and sacrifice to the children of the night. I'm waiting for, like, okay, maybe there's a whole, like, D&D angle they're going to go to.
Yeah. Who knows?
Because I see it, like, it looks like evil wizard. There's like a knight behind him. I'm like, okay, let's have some. I mean, we've gone this far. I don't think like orcs are going to be much of a stretch. You think?
Well, who knows what happens?
And it didn't. And that was the last issue.
Right. And there,
Yeah,
obviously,
that
he
was the
did
last
more
issue.
appearances over the years, but we just
Yeah.
wanted to cover the first 8 issues of him, his first appearance, and how he became. And you were correct, Nick. It did go to 76 this series. So,
Yeah, it was like early 76.
yeah, January 76.
Yeah. And and then he makes those other appearances later on. He somehow gets back to present day by the Thing and Marvel team up.
Yeah, the Thing gets sucked into the Bermuda Triangle and his experimental jet he's flying, and that they're
Yeah.
able to get that jet to fly back through the hole in the time rift. At which point they bring back dinosaurs with them, and then you get a Fantastic Four fighting dinosaurs.
Well, what else would they be doing?
Exactly. And then the dinosaurs get shipped off to the Savage Land.
Of course.
Because they don't kill them. They just render them unconscious and take
And
them.
then he shows up again in Captain America in 1993. And this is where you said, Vince, he comes back as he changed his name to the Blazing Skull, but not the old Golden Age Blazing Skull that was around World War II.
Yeah, well, he had a few appearances before that in like some Quasar comics where they kind of explained why he looks like he does in that Captain America.
Yeah. How he can look like he's an X-ray.
Yeah,
right,
that
where
was
it wasn't by
weird.
choice, and it was also revealed you can't remove the belt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because he went to Dr. Druid to try to get the belt to take the belt off,
And
the mojo didn't quite work right, and it made him basically his skin translucent.
And that's where he builds up this relationship with Dr. Druid, and there was a other few. He gets becomes part of a paranormal group.
Yeah, he starts hanging out with the Living Mummy and
Living Mummy and was it not Diablo, but
Diablo. Whoa. That's a stretch. Diablo.
no, but yeah, there it is. I gotta remember what. Yeah, there was Dr. Druid, Living Mummy.
The Future Foundation he's part of.
Yeah,
too.
he joined the part of the shock troop.
The Shock Troop. There we go. Shadow Man. So he was part of that group. They were kind of like paranormal investigators, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for having 8 issues, he has such a convoluted backstory.
It's just like there's so much going on.
So Matt and I decided to. Well, Nick took care of most of the history and the write up of that. We thank him for that. Matt,
You're welcome. I have to apologize though. There was some stuff I missed because there was just so much.
Well, it's chaos
going on.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh yeah, the word count was very high. There was not wasted space when it comes to writing text in this series.
No, not at all. But like you're putting all these tropes in of ancient aliens, and then you got dinosaurs, and then you got the whole Vietnam War, post-Vietnam War stuff going on, and this and that. I'm like, holy cow!
Yeah. So Matt and I have done our little write-ups of what we thought, and we're going to compare here live on the show.
Yes,
Live.
we had prior to the show. We did not share our results, so we did not collaborate in any way or form.
No, the password is. Oh, sorry, wrong show.
Yeah.
So I'll put these in the show notes on the website. What we got, but I split mine up. Did a little bit different than Matt. I did the actual FASERIP and the health and everything, and the popularity and resources all as one stats, and then I put powers, his skull belt, and I broke it down to what he gets based on that belt. So for his FASE, I did 50, 20, 10, and 20. And his RIP, I did 20, 30, and 10, giving him 100 health and 60 karma. Popularity, I gave him a low 6.
Yeah.
Because, and his resources was pretty much poor because, he was flying around trying to find work, and he was a bodyguard for, 2 seconds. So I don't even think he got a paycheck.
Right. He was more of a drifter than anything.
Yeah.
Elias? Oh, sorry. And then I gave him. Then I put out the skull belt. It guarantees him the ability of fearlessness. I should probably put not fearless, but he becomes fearless and grants him an amazing. I guess if there was a save versus fear, or if you had to use it, him taking risks. He has an amazing ability to resist that. He'd be able to do amazing feats, and I just thought he would get an amazing in that. As far as the belt grants him super strength, would knocks his strength up to a 40, which is incredible.
That makes sense.
From a 10, which was just basically a good, because I felt it gave him such a boost.
You ripped a robot dinosaur apart, so yeah.
Yeah, and he made a head explode, but we'll get to that in a second. He also has a force. He kind of that, like when he had the belt on, I don't know if you guys noticed it or not, but we noticed the glow that he had around him when the belt happened, but did you notice things kind of bounced off of him, sort of?
Yeah, kind of.
Like,
and also when the skeleton had that, when he got shocked.
Yes. So I kind of gave him like an excellent 20 kind of force bubble around him, as best I could describe it. So when he's in battle and pumped up, things kind of bounce off him like, weapons and maybe bullets, if anything, but 20.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, albeit he did get knocked out by a rock.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he wasn't paying attention. That's why.
Okay, so he has to focus. It's not just always on.
He has to meditate and focus, yes. And then I gave him a power blast because of the one dinosaur he was just beating the crap out of with the knife, and he just was like, "Rah!" and he just exploded the head of the dinosaur. So I gave him a monstrous in that.
So you think that was a power blast he generated?
Yeah, I'm thinking it was some type of power blast that he generated or energy blast, and it was enough that it destroyed a huge dinosaur robot head. So
right now, was that like a ranged attack, or was just the power blast going like melee power blast?
I think
attack?
It's just a melee power blast, as far as I could tell.
Right. Okay.
And he
was
actually
sort of like how what's his name, Iron Fist is.
It came out of nowhere, and I'm going to say he has to focus or maybe rage. I don't know, but that's how I did it. I know Matt did it a little differently, so we'll hand it over to Matt. Matt?
Yes. Well, with me, I treat the highest a normal non-meta human can have for anything is remarkable, and that's if you're like Olympic level. And when it comes to the physical stuff. So that's kind of like the cap I put on anything physical, because mine is a much lower power level than Vince's.
Yeah.
Like I put him fighting wise at excellent. When I saw the fighting and what he was doing, I'm like, he's got his military training. He's probably about on par with the Punisher when it comes to the hand-to-hand. He's no Captain America in fighting. So I knocked him down to excellent.
Would that be considered like basic military training?
Yeah. And I also, I'll get into it. I actually gave him the skill martial arts B, which incorporates that.
That makes sense.
I like Vince. I had him at excellent. Yeah. Good shape, flipping around, swinging on trees. Yeah. Good. Then I had strength good as well in human form, but I only bumped him up to remarkable because the strength I saw from him, it was like, I could see Captain America doing that. And that's what Cap is. So I put him, basically, he got that peak of human strength out of that belt. He wasn't hitting like the strength of amazing. That's Spider-Man. That's lifting up cars and throwing things around. He wasn't doing that. And then
he did lift a what was it? That big stone chair.
He lifted,
picked up that stone throne.
I could see Captain America doing that, but when you compare, like I read the team up with him and Thing, nowhere close to Thing. So not even the same ballpark. Thing's ripping up tree trunks and swinging them around, and Thing's is a monstrous 75. So
I'm basing this off the A comics. I'm not basing it off those, so I didn't read those.
Right, just like I also read when Captain America and Blazing Skull got into a fight, and Captain America owned him. So hence why I bumped him down as well. So
Marv was long gone. Leave him alone.
Yeah. Endurance, I had him at excellent, and then I gave him up to remarkable. He's a little more durable in that. He was taking a little bit more of a beating, but nothing huge. For reason, I put typical. He just, from a strict book knowledge, he just seemed like a dude. Typical is your normal human. Not bad, not good, just there. I could see good, but intuition good. He had that survivor wit to him. So
he was an Air Force pilot. He had to go through survival training.
Yeah.
So
I gave
that
him,
would factor into it.
I gave him remarkable because of that. So.
Yeah. Well, whereas I gave him a military skill set to compensate for that. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you did. Correct. Okay.
So he gets that bonus, but only to military stuff.
Okay.
And then I get intuition. I gave him good. Again, just he had a little bit of wit to him. And then
He
psyche,
also
I
has
had.
the pilot skill too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And then psyche, I had it good. I mean, he had to tolerate being tortured.
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell he would have. There was at times I thought if he knew anything, he probably would have broke. So hence why it's not higher. But he didn't turn out a basket case either. He just became more the brooding anti-hero. So hence the good.
May have given him a 20 on that one for excellent because of the fact that he was able to just zone out and just take all the torture. So.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the argument for that. So you could shift either way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Then resources, poor. Yeah. I also put popularity at poor just because reading it, he's a horribly irritating person. He'd be insufferable to be around. So he's not going to make friends. Not to mention he was wanted by the law.
He's kind of a bully in a way.
He's a jerk.
Yeah. He's not really likable.
No, he's just a jerk.
I was reading this the entire time. I'm thinking okay, if I'm reading this story, what's to draw me in to want to read more about this guy?
The wackiness of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly. It would have to just be you're into the Gonzo stories.
That's what drew me in was the Gonzo story of everything. So yeah.
Right. And then I gave him, like I said earlier, martial arts B, and then in the Marvel team up, Anne even mentions you taught me kung fu. So. Hence the
kung fu.
Yes. And then the military because of his military training. I didn't give him all the other stuff like Vince did though when it comes to the force bubble, and the only thing that belt gave him was a little bit more strength and a little bit more endurance. Like how Vince saw the big the force blast when taking out the dinosaur. I thought he was just kind of roid raging, maybe used a little bit of karma and got a red result and caused it to blow up. And then hence also the glow. I could see you saying okay, you're using karma, you start glowing. That could kind of be a thing because he did glow a lot, usually when he was really angry and just going off raw emotion.
Yeah.
So I took it more instead of that being a power, more of him just exerting himself a lot, and that was the manifestation of that.
Well, that's both interesting takes on the same character for stats. I gotta say,
I did push him up his fighting to amazing because I was comparing him versus Captain America and the Punisher, and I felt that he deserved that. So because he had the same fighting skills as them. So
right, and you could see that because he does have the military training. That actually puts him ahead of Wolverine in fighting. Wolverine's only an incredible. I think Spider-Man's amazing, but then he's also super. Well,
he is the amazing Spider-Man.
Exactly. But it was for me.
Just you saying that, I think Spider-Man's amazing. Really? No kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, really for me, it was when I saw him and Cap go one-on-one, and it wasn't even close.
Wow.
So I did more than the required reading, so I started grading him on a harder curve because I started when you isolate him in his own bubble in his book, when you don't have known quantity superheroes he's dealing with other than Robot Black Knight, which I consider more like the Doombot version of Black Knight, the actual Black Knight.
Yes.
So
though he did not speak to himself in third person, but
yes. Anyway, so that's going to be the show. Hope you guys enjoyed the walk down Gonzo Lane, I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
So this is the first Bound for Glory we're doing. So we'll do some more of these every once in a while just to, get you guys some new characters in there. And it's kind of fun to read this stuff and just kind of, go back and forth what we think about it. And hopefully you guys enjoyed that. So you could write us, Matt, what's our email address?
bullpen@classicfaserip.com.
Or you can tweet us at Classic FaceRip on Twitter. And 570-865-4210 is the hotline. And we're going to say goodnight, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.